Given the different time zones that are present here today, I'll start with good morning and good evening. I'm Mark Ivano, the Executive Director of Republicans for National Renewal, and I'm very pleased to have all of you join us here today. We launched in February 2020 as an organization dedicated to representing the pro-Trump national populist wing of the Republican Party. Our goal is to promote President Donald Trump and Trump's America First vision within the institutions of the Republican Party and push back against the globalist Republicans, also known as rhinos, that would like to see our party revert back into the George W. Bush era platform of open borders and endless wars. And I understand that many of you all also promote an agenda that focuses on putting your own countries first. And so I'm sure we'll find some common ground today. And the reason we're having this event is because we feel that it is essential that national populist conservatives in the United States build closer ties with those in Europe, where national populism is a lot better established. We've believed in that since we launched, when we had elected officials from Lega and the Sweden Democrats speak. And since then, we've hosted the foreign minister of Hungary and MEPs from Estonia and Austria at our events. Facilitating discussions between the youth wings of European parties and the Republican Party, we can help lay the foundation for more extensive relationships on a party-to-party level. And that's why we're proud to be hosting this event. We were also overwhelmed by the interest we received from European parties. It is heartening to see that so many from Europe are eager to further develop their relationships with the Republicans in the United States. And so with that said, I'd like to thank our co-hosts, Lega Giovani and Fidelitas. They were critical in helping invite many of the participants today. I'd also like to thank Matt Brainard from Look Ahead America for connecting us with one of the parties participating. As for the rules of the call today, if you're an observer on the call, please make sure your mic stays muted so we have less interruptions. And basically, I'll start by asking specific people to speak on the topics we're discussing, and then we'll open up the discussion to the wider speaking participants. If you're a speaking participant on this call, feel free to raise your hand on Zoom if you'd like to come in on a question, and I'll call on you. And so to begin, let's run through introductions first. And we'll start with our American participants. We're very pleased to have a member of the Young Republican National Federation Board on the call today, as well as a Young Republican State Chair and 2 College Republican State Chairs. So let's go ahead and start by having Jack introduce himself.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this call, Mark. And I was going over the participant list, and one of the things that I would like everyone to know is that we know you're out there, right? That what the stated mission of this organization is, I think, is one of the most important things that we can focus on. And as Mark mentioned, I am on the executive board of the National Young Republicans, and I think that we have a lot to look forward to. And the message, if I have one, is one of optimism. So I'm very excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversations.
Thank you, Jack. Will Donohue.
Hi, it's great to be here. It's early in California, but I live in a communist state, and I hate living here. But I'm a big fan of a lot of the movements that are represented here. In particular, I don't want to point anybody out, but in particular, law and justice movement in Poland. I saw ambassador to the EU a few years ago at an event, and some of the ideas that were coming out of there were like, yes, that is going to turn around some of the problems that we're facing, not only in California but in this country. So glad to see so many great thinkers on the call, and I'm looking forward to hearing from y'all.
Thank you, Will. And now on to our European participants. Please let us know your titles and the youth wing you're representing. And we'll start with our co-hosts, Davide and Martin. Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, and nice to meet you. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm Davide. I'm from Lega, and fortunately, I'm still in Italy, so it's very sunny, as you can see. By the way, we are very happy to help to co-host this event, because we know that it's very important to bring all the energy together to put our agenda in every level as possible and to achieve as many winning as we can.
Thank you, Davide. Martin?
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this great opportunity, especially to our American friends for organizing this event. I'm Martin Weiss from Fidelitas, which is the youth wing of Fidesz, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's party. I'm the international secretary, and of course, we are very happy to see so many familiar faces among you and many new friends and new faces which we can get to know each other. I'm accompanied by Norbert Rimozzi. He's my deputy international secretary as well. I would like to introduce him as well. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. I mean, the topic you raised, the three topics, I think is very important nowadays. It's crucial on both sides of the Atlantic. So I'm really curious to hear all of your opinions and takes on these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. If we could have Michal introduce themselves. Is Michal here? So not at the moment. How about Lorinc?
Okay, because I wasn't able to
sorry.
unmute myself.
Yeah,
So
gotcha.
yeah, hello everyone. Hello everyone. I'm Michal Szpadrowski. I'm from Law and Justice Party. I am the deputy chairman of our youth wing, which is called Youth Forum of Law and Justice. And as the previous speakers, I'm also very happy and very glad to be on this call with both our American friends and many friendly faces from across Europe. So thank you very much for your invitation. I think that as Martin mentioned, the three topics that we are having today are really important and are really up to date, especially given the situation in Poland, in Lithuania, with Belarus. So I'll be very happy to talk about all these issues and topics. And yeah, hello everyone again.
Thank you, Michal. We have Lorinc next then.
Hey guys, good morning and good evening for everybody. I'm Lorinc, Nacsa, member of parliament, member of the Hungarian parliament and president of the youth wing of the minor governing party in Hungary, the Christian Democrats. I'm really happy to be here and I'm really happy to strengthen the transatlantic patriotic relations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorinc. Let's have Filip next, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone, or good morning, of course. I'm Filip Brusselmans. I'm a member of parliament in Flanders, Belgium, for Vlaams Belang. It's the patriotic party in our country in Belgium, and I'm also the president of the Vlaams Belang Youth, the youth wing of our party, and I'm very glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to our conversations.
Thank you, Filip. Let's have Massimo next.
Hello, thank you very much for having us, and it's very nice to see friends and a lot of new faces here. I'm Massimo Etalle from Youth Forum for Democracy. We're a Dutch sovereignist party promoting direct democracy and the idea of putting the interest of the Dutch people first. I think it's great to be here, to speak to you, to meet new people, and to build a network across Europe and across the Atlantic so we can get back what is ours and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Massimo. Enzo. Here we go.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Enzo Alias from Génération, the young side of the national rally from France. I'm really happy to be here with you to make a connection in Europe and in the world. Thanks again, and I hope so we can make a collaboration for a long time together.
Thank you, Enzo. Okay, let's go with Enzo.
Yes, hello, good day, good evening, wherever you are around the world. I have to apologize in advance of the camera angle. It's positioned very strangely on my laptop, but either way, I am the chairman of Blue Awakening, a nationalist, conservative, and ethno-futurist youth organization here in Estonia. We are also the affiliated youth organization of the Conservative People's Party of Estonia. And it's good to be here, and I'm definitely looking forward to increasing our international cooperation with organizations around the world.
Thank you. How about a Seri?
Yes.
Oh, Zarja. Would you please introduce yourself, Zarja?
So was it my turn?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Asseri. I'm from Finland. I'm a former chairman of the Finns Party Youth, which was the youth organization of the Finns Party, currently one of the most popular parties in Finland. We are a nationalist party and a conservative one. Thank you for inviting me to this discussion. I'm very interested in networking with people from different countries with kind of same ideas of putting our countries first. And yeah, it's nice to meet you. And I must say that I'm sorry I have to leave very soon because of my work shift starting, because I'm working currently as a guard in prison, so I have to go soon. But thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking for very good discussions and networking with similar type of politicians around the transatlantic sphere. Thanks.
Thank you, Sari. It's a pleasure to have you. If we could have Agnian introduce himself, please.
Thank you. Dear friends, it's a great honor for me to participate in today's conference and to meet people who, together with me and my political party, share the same values. And among them, the most important value, the value of freedom. My name is Ognjen Pantovic, and I'm one of the founders of Serbian People's Party. I'm former member of Serbian Parliament. My party was founded in 2014, and since then it has strongly defended the state and the national goals of Serbian people and true European values. The Serbian People's Party has 3 deputies in Serbian Parliament, and our president, Nenad Popovic, is minister in charge of innovation and technological development. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward for the conversation.
Thank you very much. And I see that we had some other people join us. Peter, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. My name is Peter Genta. I am the chairman of the New York State Young Republicans. We are unapologetically America First. I am really happy to be taking part in this today, and it's so good to see that there's so many who share our ideology throughout the entire world. So thank you, Mark, and thank you, R&R, for organizing this.
Appreciate it, Peter. We'll go ahead and move forward. Thank you all again for introducing yourselves. I'd like to start by discussing the issue of immigration. This issue has become particularly pressing over the last few days following the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. The number of refugees and migrants that are expected to flow out of that country into Europe and the United States over the coming months. And a lot of us on the right in both Europe and America believe that the refugees will be better off in Muslim majority countries that are much closer to Afghanistan. And so, Brandon, I'll let you speak on this first. With so many Americans out of work right now in a global pandemic, should we be flying masses of migrants in from Afghanistan to states like Virginia, Wisconsin, and Texas, like the Biden administration is trying to do now? Looks like Brandon's not here. Will, could you answer that question?
Yeah, because I only caught the end of that. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So with so many Americans out of work right now in a global pandemic, should we be flying masses of migrants in from Afghanistan to Virginia, Wisconsin, and Texas, like the Biden administration is trying to do so right now?
Absolutely not. No, that's the easiest answer to that question. I don't think we should be allowing work visas right now. I signed on to a petition that actually ended up making it on one of our largest national conservative media to end our work visas momentarily, so that American students can finish their college degrees in the middle of a pandemic when the job market was at its worst, and allow us to, give our nationals jobs before we give them to foreign nationals. And I would appreciate like all the people in this call to come into the country, but not so much from the Middle East, where their ideology is completely countercurrent to ours. And that's how we've gotten representatives like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib that are absolute. I'm just going to avoid those words. They're a waste in our government. So we don't need foreign nationals coming from the Middle East, and we definitely need to protect our own interests in terms of who's getting jobs and who's graduating college here.
Thank you, Will. And although we're expected to receive quite a lot of migrants, the number arriving in Europe is projected to be much higher. I know Matteo Salvini in Italy was at the forefront of resisting mass illegal immigration into Europe as the immigration minister. And that's why we'll go to Davide next. Davide, what do you think Italy and the EU should do regarding this crisis, particularly with regard to migrants arriving by boat?
Well, the point is that related to Afghanistan, our point is very clear. We have to take back our soldier and only people that have worked with us in the boots on the ground. So translator and maybe some people that helped us with the Secret Service and stuff like that. We don't need to take any more Afghan that want to flee their country to go to Europe. Second of all, about what's happening in the boats and what's happening in the Mediterranean, we still have a tough time because we decided to join a national unity government. So we are not in a dream position to put only our agenda. So we are fighting daily with our Undersecretary of Minister of Interior, Nicola Molteni, to push an Italian first agenda and to defend our border. Our border are also a European border, so it's very important to preserve it and to keep the line of the Mediterranean clear, and to be very, very clear that the NGO cannot push their political agenda on our country and cannot push migrants in our soil without the consent of the state. So it's a struggle that we have daily, like in the forefront of the border with Africa and the border of Libya. And we will see what's happening, because it's kind of sure that with the Afghan excuse, more people try to flee there. And also with the collapse of the Tunisian state, the situation can be more tough in the coming month with the new restriction, new COVID lockdown in the state like Tunisia or Algeria. They don't have any real economy, so it will be very, very, very messy and very tough for us. But we have to fight and we have to protect the European border for everyone.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and open up the discussion to other participants on both the US and European sides to come in. Please raise your hand on Zoom if you'd like to speak about the issue, and I'll call on you. Let's go with Michal.
Okay, I'm unmuted. So to give you a perspective what's happening right now on Polish border, because the migration crisis that happened in European Union some years ago, 2014, 2015, I guess, Martin has the biggest experience with that. Hungarian was one of the first states that was defending Europe from flow of tens of thousands of migrants, as well as Davide. But right now, what we are seeing in Poland and Lithuania is that the Lukashenko regime in Belarus is taking the refugees from both Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, whatever country they can have migrants. They are providing them the military flights. These migrants are paying them money. It's $4,000, $6,000, $8,000, up to $15,000 for getting to Belarus and from being directed to the European border, especially to Germany. Right now, we are seeing the situation when some of the migrants are having the map that there is a border between Belarus and Germany, whilst there is a huge country called Poland between them. So right now, to give you some examples in numbers, last year, the Polish border guard has stopped and well, some people were deported, some people are still in our closed camps, 2,300 illegal migrants that crossed the border of Poland. This month, just in August, and we are not in the end of August, we had 2,100 pretends to cross Polish border illegally. And this is all done by Lukashenko regime, and the same numbers apply to Lithuania. And what we see on the left side right now is probably you all hear that. Well, let them inside. There are doctors, lawyers over there, nurses, some, you know, high qualified engineers coming. And like so why they are sitting on the Belarusian side of the border, you know, and not going to Minsk when there is no danger for them. They are not refugees in terms of international law. And of course, the leftists in Poland are using the same agenda as they used always, that we are anti-humanitarian, that we are not showing the Christian mercy towards the refugees, that we are being xenophobes, racists, Islamophobes. I think you all know that. And this is right now happening in Poland. And there are even some members of parliament that one of them crossed Belarusian border illegally just to deliver them boxes of pizza and came back to Poland. This is happening right now on our border. So in terms of what we need to do is, well, I will repeat after Donald Trump, let's build a wall. And I'm not saying about, you know, tall wall on the Belarusian border, but we just put 150 kilometers of barbed wire on the Polish border. And the leftists are saying, yeah, this is your Christian mercy, that you are putting a wire on the border. Let them in. One of the parliament members said, yeah, let them in, and then secret services can check them while they are inside Poland, not before, but after. So this is the situation that we have with migration right now in Poland, with migration that is being created by the Russia, because Lukashenko is not doing anything without Putin's green light for his policies. So right now we are having this tension on borders, and we will defend European borders, we will defend our borders, and we will not let any illegal migrant in. And if they get in, they will be deported. And this is our policy that we are doing as a government for 6 years. People who are willing to provide for Polish society, who are working with Polish forces, with United States forces in Afghanistan, of course, they are welcome for their help, for support that they have shown towards the international forces. But no illegal migrant will get into Poland and illegally. And we will always be for strong borders, for protecting our borders, and for protecting our people from the dangerous people that are coming to our countries illegally.
Thank you, Michal. And I understand that Jack Blakely is at a convention right now, but if he could give a few words on this before he has to leave.
Well, yes. So we, one of the problems of being involved in politics is sometimes you have to be involved in politics. So my wife and I both serve on the state central committee of our state party, and they called a meeting today. So, you know, that's sort of life. But I also want you to know this is the most important thing I'm doing today, because I think that this is the conversation that we need to begin having, and that's what we've done in order to have any chance of victory in the future. So I think really at the end of the day, we're at a situation where our opponents have made their intentions so clear that it's and this is what we're doing, is finally just standing up and saying, no, that's not what we want.
Thank you, Jack. If we go to Filip next.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank countries like Poland and Greece and even Italy to protect the European borders. But sadly enough, countries like my country, like Belgium, we have a really left-wing government, we don't care about the European borders. We are at this moment flying in refugees from Afghanistan. And the funny thing is, or it's not funny, it's sad actually, that this weekend the government was with the first of all governments in Europe, in Belgium, to say, yeah, we need to get all the Belgian people living in Afghanistan, who are the Belgian people living in Afghanistan, but okay, we need to get them in our country back as soon as possible. And on Saturday, they ordered 4 planes, military planes, to Afghanistan to go get approximately 500 Afghan Belgians, I don't know who they are, to come in our country again. But sadly for the government, good for us, there were only 4 people on the planes, 4 people that had the right papers, that had our nationality, that wanted to come back, because the other guys, who are they? They are refugees, came in 2015, 2016 in Belgium as a refugee. They radicalized over here. They went back to Afghanistan in 2019, 2020 to fight with the Taliban or to do other things in countries around with IS and that kind of stuff. And then nowadays, so they live in Afghanistan for 2-3 years right now. And then now they want to come back because they have that Belgian nationality, because we welcomed them in 2015. And the people who we are getting in at this moment really are terrorists. It's all young men. It's really dangerous men. And like our Polish friend said, the secret services are looking, are investigating them after they come in our country. And that's it's a really big problem. But the biggest problem, after all, is countries like Greece, like Poland, they can protect the European borders. But if countries like Germany or Belgium, my country, keep flying them in, yeah, then we are lost.
Thank you, Philip. I think the next person who had their hand raised was Martin.
Yes, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you, Michal, for reminding me as well, yes, what happened in 2015 in Europe. So what we have seen then with people coming from, well, they claim they came from Syria, where there is obviously a devastating civil war. But of course, they were coming from Afghanistan, from Morocco, from all corners of the world to Europe. And they came through the so-called Balkan route, mainly. And after we closed that, then they switched to the Mediterranean route, through Italy and the Mediterranean Sea. And I remember what the streets of Budapest looked like for weeks, to be honest. They were full with people, and I felt terrible for them, because yes, there were some families there, and even for the young guys who I have no idea what their intentions are. It was, the streets were full of them, and I felt terrible for them. But of course, in the meantime, you have to consider first the safety and well-being of your own citizens, and therefore, when we and our government have seen that it's impossible to manage this, this is not simply a refugee crisis. It was a big migration, just like what ended the Roman Empire. And when we have seen this, then the government decided that, okay, we have to close the borders, and we raised the fence. It's not a wall, I know, but at least a fence. And therefore we were able to manage who comes in, and check what they want. Do they have any papers? Are they those people who they claim to be, really, and so on and so on. So I think that was a very important lesson for Europe. And I honestly believe the Hungarian government showed that it is possible to stop this migration flow on the land. And the Italian government with Matteo Salvini showed it is possible to stop this flow on the sea. And what were people saying? That first they claimed, oh, these only families, they're running for their lives. But when we have seen these only young men who knows what they want and why they come in such big waves, which is simply unmanageable. Then when everybody saw that, then they said, okay, yes, maybe it's a problem. People on the left said, maybe it's a problem, but we can't do anything. We can't do anything. I mean, how do we want to stop them? And then we showed that it is possible to stop them. So these kind of examples, both in Hungary, both in Poland, Italy, and so on, is very important to have a reasonable argument that yes, it is possible to stop this migration flow. And of course, then it is reasonable to ask, okay, if we stop them at our borders, what to do next? So, and our answer was that we shouldn't import these problems to our countries, then that we should rather export solutions. And Hungary started a program called Hungary Helps, which is mainly focusing on persecuted Christian minorities, both in the Middle East and also in Africa. And we have rebuilt several villages, churches, hospitals, schools, and so on in Syria, Iraq, Nigeria, and so on. And I think that it is important to show that first we are capable to manage the problem, and also we have our own human Christian answers to the problem, which does not accelerate the problem, does not import the problem into Europe and into the US, but export solutions. And that's what we have to focus on. So basically that's my take. And just to confirm what some of you have said, that yes, when the first problem started in Budapest and the government started to talk about, okay, there is a migration problem. Some on the left said, okay, it's a fake problem invented by Orban just because of campaign solutions and campaigning reasons. But we know how they operate. We know how they argue on the left with all their NGO networks and millions of monies coming from God knows where, or rather nowhere. But we have to focus on our take. We have to focus that we do have answers how to protect our countries, and we do have answers how to help those people who really need that in their own countries, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, or Syria. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I see the next hand is Agnian.
Thank you. Serbia has been on the immigrant route since its beginning in 2015. Many of our citizens have been attacked by immigrants, and unfortunately, some of the terrorists who carry out the attacks in Western Europe, such as the one in Paris, went through this Balkan route. What immediately codified all of us in Serbia is that men make up over 95% of immigrants from Middle East. I was born in Sarajevo, today is Bosnia and Herzegovina, and after the war, as a boy with hundreds of thousands of my compatriots, I escaped from that city. But we all escaped, women and children, everyone. And of course, we escaped where my Serbian people live. This is not the case with today's migrant crisis. No one goes to the surrounding countries which are the same in religion and culture, but go to Europe, whose values are mostly unknown to immigrants, and it turned out they are not important to them. Seeing this problem at very beginning, we from the Serbian People's Party were the first in Serbia to demand strict measures to protect security of our country. Women and children are always welcome, especially in Serbia, which is known as a hospitable country, but hundreds of thousands of military able men pose a great danger to our country and the Europe. Today, measures in Serbia are much stronger than they were at the beginning, but there is still a lot of room to solve this immigration problem even more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Agni. I think we have just enough time for one more brief comment. If we go to Massimo next.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, just like Poland, Italy, and Hungary have shown us, it is possible to solve the problem of immigration. The Dutch government has shown us it is completely, the modern liberal mainstream is completely unwilling to solve this problem of immigration. In the Netherlands, the growth in population is entirely due to migration. Indigenous Dutchmen are decreasing in amount, while the immigrant statistics are increasing year by year. There was some, and just like now with Afghanistan, the liberal parties, they demand more people who helped us. They say people who cooked, people who were there, people who sold DVDs on the training camps we had. They should all come to the Netherlands. We should all help them. And this is they are trying to expand this day by day, so we get as many of them in as possible. And the last time with this Syrians, they used the trick, well, it's only temporary. They're here temporarily, and when Syria turns safe again, they can go back. But when we introduced a proposition in Parliament to declare Syria a safe country, so that the hundreds of thousands of Syrian immigrants which entered the Netherlands can return to Syria through regular ways, all governing parties rejected this motion, and as a consequence of this, the Syrians who came here will become full Dutch citizens, and it will be impossible to send these people back to where they came from. So that's the other side of the picture. It's very bleak and quite terrible, actually, to live in the most liberal country of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Massimo. It was a dire situation indeed. Moving on to the second topic of discussion today is the ongoing censorship of our free speech. Of course, in January of this year, President Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, was banned by Twitter and Facebook, as you all know. I'm aware that censorship is also a major issue in Europe as well. Not only are you affected by the private sector restrictions imposed by American social media companies, but conservative voices in Europe have also been targeted by government hate speech laws in many Western European countries, for example. With that in mind, I'd like to have Gavin go ahead and introduce himself, and then I have a question for him to begin with.
Hey guys, Gavin Wax, president of the New York Young Republican Club. Sorry if I'm late, but this has been a fantastic discussion. I'm really enjoying all the perspectives from across Europe, from our friends across the pond. It's good to see that there's a lot of commonality in our views, and also, sadly, in the threats to our respective nations and institutions and histories and culture. But what we're seeing in the United States has been a pretty terrible uptick in censorship. There's been a collusion and a cooperation between corporate tech monopolies and the state. Sometimes you can't seem to tell where one begins and the other ends. We saw it with the censorship of our president, Donald J. Trump. We're seeing it with the censorship of many activists, of many politicians, of many different individuals who offer viewpoints counter to the orthodoxy. For many years, it always seemed that maybe this was more of an issue that related to Europe. I remember seeing a lot of things in the UK and other parts of continental Europe where the censorship was a lot more stricter and was a lot more prevalent than it was in the United States. But we certainly caught up in the last few years, if not surpassed, what we're seeing in Europe. I guess my question is, how have your respective countries been handling this issue? Has it been as big of an issue in your countries, considering many of you may not necessarily use the same platforms we do in the United States? Maybe some of these companies do not have such of a stranglehold over your countries as they do in the United States. And do you see it as a rising issue as we do in the United States?
But I guess before we open up the floor to everyone else, Gavin, do you think that conservatives should be willing to use the state to push back against these unelected big tech CEOs being able to silence elected leaders?
Oh, I apologize about that. But yes, I think we should be using the power of the state to rein in these companies. We have a commitment to our citizens and to their families, and the state should be used to protect them and their interests. This idea of a hands-off, laissez-faire, limited do-nothing government is dated, and it's been shown to be completely ineffective to face the issues of the day. We have a growing body in Silicon Valley of disconnected globalist elites who are seeking to undermine our institutions, our values, the very fabric of our republic. So we should not hesitate to use the power of the state to rein them in, like we do with every other industry and every other sector of society. We rarely hear these arguments for limited government when it comes to the issues of small businesses, when it comes to the issue of many other industries that have been strangled and suffocated under the boot of big government. But when it comes to big tech and all their billions in financing and all their control and power, all of a sudden we have to put our hands up in the air and say we can't touch them. They're too sacred. So we should certainly step in. We need to preserve the public square. We should regulate them like utilities, like we do with telecommunications, with phone lines. You certainly can't just cut off someone's phone or cut off this conversation, for instance, just because you don't like the contents of the call. The same should apply to Twitter, to Facebook, to whoever else, to email providers. We should also be regulating search. They have shown that they have incredible influence over elections and how they can sway the vote. This needs to be reined in, or we're going to basically be giving up our entire country to the hands of very few technocratic elites. So we should certainly use the power of government to regulate them, to bring them to heel. We should take care and remove Section 230 protections, so they'd be open to liability, so they should be open to litigation. There's no reason that a traditional print newspaper can face lawsuits and face court proceedings for what they publish, but Twitter and Facebook, which editorializes their content heavily, whether it's directly or indirectly through their algorithms, they should also be facing that sort of litigation, and they should be facing litigation for destroying people's accounts and livelihoods and not adhering to their own terms of service agreements, which seem to constantly change at their will. So they should all be coming to heel, whether through the government, whether through the courts, and this should have been done a long time ago. It's sad that it hasn't, but it needs to be done.
Thank you, Gavin. Very well said. And now I'll go ahead and open up the discussion to participants on both the US and European sides to come in. Once again, if you raise your hand on Zoom, if you'd like to speak about the issue, and I'll call on you. Looks like the first one, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, this topic is, from a legal perspective, right? I don't know how it's run in other countries, but there's a difference between a publisher and a platform in the United States. And as a publisher, you have First Amendment protections to choose what you want to be put out on your platform. As a pure platform, you must respect First Amendment rights. I think my speaker actually just died. Excuse me. You have to respect First Amendment rights as a platform. And the fact that they're able to come through and delete our posts, they're able to remove the sitting president of the United States off of their platforms is horrendous, especially when leaders of terrorist regimes are allowed to remain on Twitter and not be deplatformed. In addition, a lot of the messages that are starting to come out of Twitter that are being deleted are not ones that are radical or conspiracy theories. Early on in the pandemic, conservatives were first on the track to realize that the coronavirus pandemic had indeed come out of a Wuhan lab instead of a wet market. And those posts were regarded by fact checkers to be inaccurate information, and were either tagged with some, I don't even know what to call it, some disclaimer from these Twitter overlords that these are not real, or it's misinformation, or they're just taken down. We found out months later, almost a year later, that the virus very well could have come out of the Wuhan lab, and these companies jumped ahead without checking anything. There was no fact check. So I think it's being litigated right now. If it's not, it should be litigated. A lot of the draconian methods that these tech companies are taking are antithetical to what we uphold in the US in our First Amendment, and it needs to stop.
Thank you, Will. Let's go to Ano next.
When it comes to Estonia, in a lot of issues, including free speech, we're sort of, along with many other Eastern European countries, we're sort of 20 to 35 years behind the developments of, let's say, the Western countries and the Anglosphere. So we have indeed seen, as a people and also as a political movement, we have seen the developments that have taken place in these countries. And Estonia itself is at a bit of a crossroads because our new liberal government has tried before and will try to introduce now a hate speech law. Interestingly enough, Estonia was actually under investigation and was threatened to be fined by the European Union because we do not have a specific hate speech law. And I don't want to use the word thankfully because, I feel sorry for any other countries where these hate speech laws actually exist. But for us, it is a clear warning sign. And thankfully, a large majority of the Estonian people, whether they are conservatives, nationalists, even liberals, or some type of socialists, a large majority sees that this sort of law will be a slippery slope. It will be used as an excuse for censorship. And this is why most people, I would say definitely a majority, do not support this. And this is also an opportunity for us in the political sphere to grow our support base, because we see what the issues are with this, and we how should I say, we speak up about it before it's too late.
Thank you, Ano. If we go to Jack next. Jack?
Sorry about that, I was muted. One thing that I always like to bring up on whenever censorship comes up as a discussion is the reason that they want to censor us is because they're afraid of the truth. And that's always something to keep in mind, is don't ever be afraid to tell the truth.
Very good. If we go to Michal next.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. So like in Estonia, we basically don't have, that developed so-called hate speech laws that are existent in the Western countries in Europe. So basically, because there has been no changes in laws since years and years, there is a thing that we see as conservatives, and I know that this is also a problem in the United States, that some of the justices are trying to legislate from the bench. So if the law has not been changed, there is no case law in Poland, so there is no legal precedence. But still, if they cannot do something according to the law, they are trying to bend the rules and give the sentence that is not very coherent to the law, but trying to push the limits of the law from their own perspective. So as the parliament has not made any significant changes in this hate speech laws, etc., the leftists are trying to push through NGOs, through the justices that are overwhelmingly leftist, liberals. There are not so many conservatives among them, so they are trying to push the limits of the law as much as they can. And in the cases, if, for example, the conservative politician is being accused of blackmailing someone, or I don't know, saying something bad for him about someone in public, there is a high chance and high probability that he will be sentenced and he will have to pay a fine or give some money to a charity, whatever the justice will say. But if the leftist politician is accused of the same thing, and he is even, going even more and more harsh in his words, even saying that, we should kill all the right wings because they are fascists. Well, it is called an artistic expression, a freedom of speech, the legal platform of the public debate. So yeah, he is a politician. He can say that, and this is up to public to decide whether they want to outvote him from the parliament or not. So in the legal cases, there is a huge difference of treatment about the conservative politicians and the leftist liberals. So this is the main issue that we have. We don't have that much censorship from Facebook or Twitter coming right now. There are some, of course, very far left or right-wing politicians that are being banned from Twitter, but the Polish president is not banned from Twitter yet. So we don't have this problem. It hasn't been as huge as in the United States, but we really have the problem. Of course, we tried to reform the judiciary system, and this is why how they are repaying us by sentencing the right-wing politicians much more times than they are sentencing left-wing liberals for breaking some rules of the public debate.
Thank you, Michal. And we're still on the same topic, but before we go to the follow-up, I see that Edgar's from National Alliance is on. If you could please introduce yourself, Edgar's.
Yeah, good morning or good evening to everyone. I'm Edgar, I'm from Latvia. I'm from a youth organization called Youth for Latvia. We are underneath the Parliament Party National Alliance in Latvia. It's a national conservative party, and we are working here in Latvia to get bigger, stronger, to make our right wing stronger here in Latvia, and
Thank you, Edgars. And so to follow up on that discussion, even more liberal European leaders such as Chancellor Merkel and French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire have questioned the decision to ban President Trump from social media, and rightfully so. However, in Europe, the so-called hate speech laws have been used to great effect against conservatives. I understand in France, National Rally leader Marine Le Pen was recently fined for tweeting images of atrocities committed by the Islamic State terror group. And so with that, I don't think Alexander's here, but to ask to Philip, how are European conservatives struggling with the selective application of these hate speech laws in Europe?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's even in Belgium, it's the same problem as big as in the United States. My party president, or the Facebook page of my political party, it's the biggest one in our country, got banned a few times already for so-called hate speech. And I believe the solution can be found in a twofold. First of all, the tech companies, they must respect the Constitution, where the Constitution in most European countries, I believe, gives us the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. It is, in my opinion, incorrect for social media companies to impose their own rules on what can and cannot be done and said. And in that regard, I believe we need to view social media platforms as a public good rather than private companies. And strangely enough, in Belgium, the left-wing parties, they agree on that view, because once it is a public good, yeah, they can easily punish for hate speech at that moment. And their only aim with the hate speech laws is to hit right-wing nationalist parties, of course. So I believe, like I said, it's a twofold. First of all, the Constitution safeguard the freedom of expression, not just on social media, by the way, because you should know that with the hate speech laws that are being introduced at this moment in Belgium, it will be even forbidden to say, for example, that there are too many refugees in our country. In a few months or in a few years, when I, as a politician, I walk into a bar, I give a speech and I say over there are too many refugees in our country, it's possible that I will be fined for that, or even have to go in front of court. So that's something we really need to prevent happening. And secondly, yeah, we need to recognize that social media platforms are a more public good than a private company. And the companies behind them, they have to comply with our constitution. I do believe that will be, that's the only solution possible in Europe.
All right, thank you, Philip. I think we have time for just one more comment if we go to Davide.
Thank you. On the Italian side, we are kind of lucky because we have a president very strong against Facebook that have banned Casa Pound, the new fascist group page. But then when they go to the court changed and say, no, you cannot censorship even them. So we have a situation when the constitution is very strong on the freedom of speech, and even we have some very good precedent on the law. But otherwise, Italy is also very known for the wild and maybe tough political speech that we have. We don't have many hate speech rule like other countries, fortunately, not yet. But the situation is more darker because the left is trying to push a new law that can be very, very tough to speak about against the gay wedding, against the gay lobby, and so on. So there is the Zan law. It's very tough. Fortunately, now it's stuck in the parliament. There is no number to be voted and to be approved, but they try to push every month to try to push that law. And it can be very tough in the future if that law will be approved to even say that a family have to be a mother and a father, because it can be somehow discriminatory for someone. And it will put some gender course even in the school. And it's I know that unfortunately in some country is the reality right now. But for Italy, it can be very, very shock and very tough. Also because we still have a decent Christian heritage, even in the culture. And so we will see. But on that side, we have to be very, very stay on the focus and defending what we still have.
Thank you, Davide. And so the third and final topic today is family values. I know Hungary has been at the forefront of this and has come under attack from the EU and liberals across Europe for some of the policies it has enacted to protect children from obscene content. Here in the United States, we've seen the rise of drag queen story time, where very young children are exposed to men dressed in provocative and sexualized clothing, to put it lightly. Across the West, we've also seen the collapse of traditional family structures and increasingly declining birth rates. And so on this one, I think Martin would be the best person to start with. So Martin, why do you think the globalist liberals went after Hungary so hard for defending the traditional family? And what can countries do to revive the traditional family?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Look, I'll be very short, and I would like to ask you to pass the opportunity to Lorinc to speak about this, because he knows this topic very, very deeply, much better than I do. But what I know and what I can tell, Hungary, our government thinks that demography and the demographic challenge what the country and the whole West faces is the biggest challenge what we have. So declining birth rates, declining population means that our country is heading to a collapse in a couple of decades, and we have to change that. And of course, in order to change that, we are supporting families very, very much with a lot of money compared to Hungarian standards. But of course, also it means that we have to protect the rights of the parents and children as well. And that means that no NGO, no teacher can decide about the sexual education and about the values what you can teach your children. It's the obligation and right of a parent, not anybody else's. And no drag queen is allowed to go in a Hungarian school and read to children. There are people who want that. Believe me, there are. But that's what we want to stop, because we are behind the US and the Western partners, maybe in 5 or 10 years in that regard. But what we have seen so far, that what comes up in the US, well, I think in 5 years it's going to come up in Hungary. So we have to act now. And please give the word for Lorinc, and he can tell you a better perspective than I can.
Sure, thank you. So Lorinc, you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you very much. I just have to leave in a couple of minutes. I would like to read for you an article of the Hungarian constitution, which says, Hungary shall protect the institution of marriage as the union of one man and one woman established by voluntary decision, and the family as the basis of the survival of the nation. Family ties shall be based on marriage or the relationship between parents and children. The mother shall be a woman, the father shall be a man. So this is one article of the Hungarian constitution we passed like 10 years ago when we came into power. And since this constitution has passed, we are under attack. We really did learn in the past years that the liberals are tolerant until they meet an opposite opinion. So it's a really hard battles on the family areas in the European Union as well. The pro-family policies are number 1 policy in the Fidesz Christian Democratic government. And for the past 10 or 11 years, the Hungarian government has been working on strengthening families, raising children and enabling young couples to realize their family goals. This approach, the Hungarian model, it's really a precedent. Now we are spending more than 5% of our GDP to family subsidies, so state subsidies. So it's a really huge amount of money supporting young couples, supporting families, like housing projects, like all tax reductions. So we can go on and on. I can send you materials of the Hungarian family policy, but we see that this has results, because while in 2010, the fertility rate was 1.23, according to the latest data now it's 1.6, which corresponds to an increase of 30% of increase. It's really important. And marriages are really high. Marriages per year has doubled since 2010. And number of divorces dropped to a 60-year low. So we see that the pro-life, pro-family policy has results, and we would like to continue this, and we would like to make alliances with everybody who is against the anti-family NGOs, the anti-family international organizations, the anti-family governments, and we would like to cooperate with everybody who is important to protect the family, to support the family as the core of survival of the nations. So feel free to ask, and I can send you more materials, more documents about the Hungarian family policy system. Thank you.
That was great news, Lorinc. Thank you for that. And so still staying on the same topic, but following up on it, one of the ways the left has waged war on the family here in the United States is by trying to radically redefine gender. And so I'd like to go to Gavin Wax for this one. Gavin, should conservatives resist the ongoing push to give transgender hormone therapy to children, and why?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous. Again, not to reiterate what I mentioned earlier about the hands-off approach that some more old school neoliberal conservatives, if you could even call them, like to take. I mean, we need to protect our children. They should not be opening themselves to experimental medical treatments being pushed by radical ideologues who themselves have mental issues. We saw this issue here in the United States in Arkansas, where the governor refused to ban this medical castration bill, and he was called out on Tucker Carlson about it. And his only defense of it was essentially, oh, the government shouldn't be involved, one, and two, this would be bad press for me if I push back against it. Well, it should be bad press if you're for medical castration of children, but that should go without saying. But it just goes to show we're living in some crazy times, particularly here in the United States. But yeah, the government should definitely be protecting our children. There's plenty of laws and statutes and other precedents on the book for the protection of children in terms of many medical procedures and other things that could be done to them. There's no reason we can't apply those same standards to this issue. But it just goes to show that they're always going to rewrite and change the standards when it suits them. And this is all part of creating a next generation of children who are completely dependent on government, who are, messed up mentally and psychologically. Part of that is with the masks. Part of that is with shutting down the schools, preventing the socialization of children. And they're also just trying to make sure that they're breaking their bonds from the family unit. I know we were touching on this earlier, but at the end of the day, what's really trying to go on right now, it's a Marxist push to destroy the family, to put the children against their parents, to have them rat out against their parents, to have them just be completely diametrically opposed to the views of their parents. And part of that is all this insanity that they're trying to push with this transgender nonsense, critical race theory, and so on and so forth. It's all part of institutional, propaganda and brainwashing of the youth. And it's going to set ourselves up to be in a very bad place in a few years, if not a few decades, when they're all grown up and now they're in positions of power and authority. So we need to push back against it now through cultural means, through media means, and also through the government when we do have control. So hopefully in the United States, we start to reclaim some measure of power at the federal level, but also at the state level. We start to use that power to push back. And I would also hope our European friends, if they're already in power, depending on the country, or if they're soon to become the party in power, that they also push back against this in any way possible. But it's crazy to think how things have moved so far to the left in just a matter of a few years. And it just goes to show how dire the situation is.
Thank you, Gavin. Jack, do you have anything briefly to add to that from the U.S. perspective?
I mean, in some ways, I almost feel bad. One of the comments, I'm sorry, I forget the name, from Hungary said that they have to look out for what we're doing because it's might show up there in 5 years. That really gave me a different perspective of the ways that we can help lead. You know what I mean? Like that's the reason that we're on this call is we realize this fight is much bigger than any one of us individually, and that really helped it click for me. So thank you for whoever said that. I'm so sorry I forgot your name.
Thank you, Jack. And I see the hand raised. Michal, let's go to you next.
Okay, so I would like to do the same that our member of parliament from Hungary has done. So I will read an article from Polish constitution. A marriage being a union of a man and a woman, as well as the family, motherhood and parenthood, shall be placed under the protection and care of the Republic of Poland. So it's not in the many constitutions in European Union, you have to believe me. So what we are doing, we are following the steps of the Hungarian government as well. So we are putting a family, as the constitution commands, under a special protection. So since 2015, so since 6 years when we are in the government, we are taking a very active measures to support the family. It's not only 500 plus programs, so for every kid that you have, you are getting 500 zloty per month. There is a special program that when the kid goes to school, you are receiving additional 300 to equip your kid to go to school, per kid, of course. Right now, we will be guaranteeing the mortgages, and if you have the more kids you have, the more the country is, the state is paying for you, is paying your mortgage, as well as there will be a new policy that if you have 4 kids or more, you are not paying your income tax. So we are trying to support the family as much as we can financially, and I know that the Hungarian government had 11 years to see the growth of the birth rates, and it's slowly growing up in Poland as well. So these policies are effective. They will not be, effective in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but you need more time that people really realize that the state is supporting them and is supporting marriage and is supporting them when they will have kids. So the proactive policies that both Poland and Hungarian government are doing are the best way to support the family. And as our Hungarian friends, maybe we are not that radical in implementing these laws, so-called in the European Union anti-LGBT laws. But during the campaign last year, we introduced a bill that very similar but not as tough as in Hungary, that the parents are having a decisive voice in terms of who can come to the school and educate your children, especially about their sexuality, about all this stuff that the leftists are trying to push into the schools. So in Poland, it's not as harsh as in Hungary, but the parents have decisive voice. If someone disagrees, there are no sex educators, so-called sex educators, coming to the schools if the parents will disagree.
Thank you, Michal. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more comments. Let's go next to Again.
Thank you. We in Serbia have faced various attempts to destroy the family. There are those who want to the names of father and mother to no longer appear in the official documents, but parent 1 and parent 2. We will never agree to that. The family consists of father and mother and children, never or of parent 1 and parent 2. In addition, we have constant attempts to violently promote gay culture. The president of my party, Nenad Popovic, reacted when they tried to import gay picture books for children to Serbia. At that time, we were attacked by many, under quotation marks, of human rights fighters, but we endured and won that fight. Also, we strongly oppose the adoption of law on same-sex unions, as well as the fact that gay couple adopt children. It is not in the spirit of our Christian faith and culture. It is not natural, and we do not want it. The aggressive campaign that some of them are conducting, the terror of minority over the majority, must stop. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, let's go to Will and then Martin, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. These changes in the U.S. really started about 10 years ago. I mean, even in 2007, Obama and Biden were against the idea of gay marriage. And they obviously changed on that. And we talk about the slippery slope. After gay marriage, it turned into, oh, we should start calling people by their preferred pronouns. And then we started normalizing transgenders in society. One of the latest developments is we're no longer calling women mothers, we're calling them birth givers, because that is more inclusive to men that have transitioned over to women, or women, it doesn't matter. California is the worst state in the union right now for these bills. There are currently 2 bills in our assembly, and this recall that we're going through in California is extremely important, because if we do not recall Newsom and put in a Republican governor, we're most likely going to see these implemented. The first is they are going to use taxpayer funding to fully fund abortions for anybody in the state that wants them. And the second is they are going to, and this is even worse, over the age of 12, allow children to decide whether they want an abortion or if they want hormone therapy to change their gender without parental consent. The destruction of our religious liberties has come from these Marxists. They've tried to take down the church, and now they are taking down gender norms, and they are taking parents out of the equation so that they can turn our country into a degenerate pit. And we're fighting against it, but we don't have time to talk about neonatal policies when we're fighting off these extreme left, ideas. I'm just trying to get children not to have hormone therapy. I don't have time to think about neonatal policy. So we're in completely different situations. Do not let your countries go down the route that we have. It is a slippery slope. And if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Thank you, Will. And Martin, go ahead.
Yes, just very shortly. Thank you for all your thoughts. I think it's really important to hear your take on this very specific issue. And yes, so you could hear a lot about this policy in Hungary lately in the European and American media, and it's going to continue because it looks like maybe in the end of the year or the beginning of the next, we're gonna have referendum in Hungary, where because of these attacks coming from Europe and from international NGO networks, our government said, okay, now we go to the Hungarian people and ask for their decision, and this decision strengthens us and has the final say about the Hungarian policies, and that's the important stuff that go to the silent but reasonable majority of the population. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Martin. And with that, unfortunately, we're out of time for today. It has been a very productive discussion. In the coming hours, R&R will draft a brief statement based on the things we discussed here today, and we'll invite the speaking participants on this call to sign on to it. I hope that this has been really a great start of growing relationships between young patriots in the United States and Europe. And we hope to have further events, perhaps even in person in the near future, to build on today's call and follow up on it. Thank you all again for your time today. Thank you to the observers on this call for tuning in. You can follow Republicans for National Renewal on Facebook under that name, or on Twitter and Instagram at RNRenewal, and check our website, www.rnrenewal.org. Davide and Martin, if you have any additional closing remarks or anything you'd like to plug, go ahead to do so now.
Davide, go first.
Okay, so thank you very much for everyone there. Thank you for hosting us and for the friendship between Italy, US, and Europe and US. I'm very happy to see that there is a lot of Italian name there, so I feel like very home. By the way, I'm also very, very happy to see that the achievement that we made today, because every time you think about something pan-European or something more international, we think about the left, because we are very, very good to keep our base in our country, but less good on build a connection and make network all together. But I think that having events like that have a good spirit and see that maybe our generation is the generation that can make something more international in a proper way. Not international like globalist, but international in more our country, our heritage, and different heritage and different culture. So keep update all together, and see you next time.
Martin?
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, guys, first of all, let me say it's a strange feeling not to be the bad guy somewhere, but people encouraging us. It's a strange but a refreshing feeling, to be honest. And of course, as I mentioned before, so whatever debates we have in Hungary and Central Europe, it certainly follows the pattern in Western Europe and in America. Maybe we're behind a couple of years, but it's certainly the same pattern. Therefore, what we are discussing here today and what we can discuss between each other, it's really important for all of us. I think having this international network of patriotic conservatives, it's truly an important step to the right direction, because we have these fights together. We have very similar issues everywhere in Europe and in America, and we have to share our experiences, and we have to give strength to each other just by sharing our good examples and just by sharing our experiences. So thank you very much for joining in. It was great to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces, and I hope to see you again sometimes in the near future, hopefully also in person, not just in Zoom and online. So best of luck, and thank you again for our American friends for organizing and hosting this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. It's been great hearing from all of you fine patriots. Thanks again to all who have participated, and we will see you next time. Have a great weekend.